it's that offensive line, Braylon. Everything starts with those guys.
The O-line has been a catalyst for the Lions since they've got this thing back on track. Got this thing on track. They've never been on track. When they got this thing on track, it was because of the offensive line. It's because of the consistency of Taylor Decker at the left tackle, Penei Sewell at the right tackle, and then you got your boy Frank in the middle. They play well. When you get playing these teams, they get to impose their will. They impose their will often and early. 646 yards. That means by the third, fourth play of the game, this team already knew, talking about the Jaguars, that they didn't want it. You put your hand down in that ground, when you start to not believe that you can get to this offensive line, like you can't do anything, now you're not putting it down on the ground as hard because you don't believe. And when you're not doing that, they're blowing you off the ball. Jahmyr Gibbs is going 8 yards a pop. At one point in this game, they were averaging 10 yards a play. They finished at 8.8 over 71 plays.
It's incredible.
They're making people quit.
And to be, we mentioned the stat yesterday. They outgained Jacksonville by 475 yards. It's the largest yardage discrepancy in 45 years in the NFL. And they do so with a BTA mentality, a beat that you-know-what mentality.
I love it.
Love it.
And they don't stop. I think so many people, even us in the stands, we were like, okay, take the stars. They don't stop. And part of that is a mindset. Part of that is the culture that they have created. I'm not even going to say trying to create, but that they have created. And a lot of that too, Bray, is they have beat teams 3 wins this year by 38 or more points. Mm-hmm. 3 wins by 38 or more points.
Cowboys, Titans, Jags.
Do you know that the rest of the NFL has 0 wins by 38 points? 31 other teams. Not one other team has done it one time. The Lions have done it 3.
That's awesome.
They are absolutely dominating this league.
This is the type of football, this is the brand of football that they want to play. They want to execute on plays. They want to execute their schemes. They want to execute, and that's what they do well. They execute. These guys are all in the right positions. We talk about it year-round. They figure out, season long, they figure out how to be in the right spots at the right times. Defense, they figure things out. When you operate like that, you look up, the score looks like that. You look up, you've grown. They're a lesser team. The Jaguars are a lesser team, and this is what happens to lesser teams. They get rolled on by a team that's executing at this level. It's tough.
What guy wanted a lot of money last year from the Lions on the old line? Jonah Jackson.
Yep.
Jonah Jackson.
You know where Jonah Jackson went? He signed with the Rams.
Rams.
Lions signed. Kevin Zeitler off the Ravens.
Pro Bowler.
Kevin Zeitler had the highest score last week. The highest, what do they call it?
Grade.
The highest grade.
Right.
Jonah Jackson has now been benched by the LA Rams. They paid him, and they benched him. Who didn't pay him?
The Lions.
Who?
Brad Holmes. There you go.
The guy knows. He knows way more than I always thought I knew because I didn't want them to give up Jonah Jackson. I'm like, you got to pay Jonah Jackson. No, you don't.
Not for that money.
No, you don't.
The sum of the parts seem to be greater than the individual as well because, and I probably shouldn't even throw a name out there because he's a really good player, but I'll throw the name out there. Graham Glasgow is probably the best he possibly could be with the Detroit Lions. If Graham Glasgow was on the LA Rams offensive line too, he probably wouldn't be as good as he is now. Because
plays 2 positions.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, yeah.
And I probably shouldn't even have said his name. I'm just trying to make a point.
Correct.
That the sum of the parts are greater than the individual or the whole.
Yeah.
Whatever the, you know what I'm trying to say.
Everybody guys work here that won't work elsewhere. They work here because it's just perfect here.
Yeah.
And then
it's perfect.
But the level goes up, too, because no matter where you are, your level goes up. If you're a B player, you go to an A player. If you're a C player, you go to a B player because these guys work hard. You're watching. You're seeing what it takes every day. You're seeing what it takes in the offseason. You're seeing what type of work I got to put in. How much time do I have to put into watching film? How many times do I get the quarterbacks together and say, hey, man, let's just go over routes. Just want to make sure I have an understanding of what this concept is. And everyone's doing it. When everybody's doing it, you can't just sit there and say, I'm going to do half or I'm going to do 70%. You either got to rise to the occasion or you'll be a weak link, you will be found out, and you will be sent elsewhere.
That's right. Guys, moving over to the defense now. One of the key areas of that was Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell has been quiet a great player, or is putting together as quietly a great season as you could possibly have. Here's what Dan Campbell says about his starting middle linebacker.
He's a guy who understands the game. You know, he is a smart football player, and he studies it. He works at it. He was that way when he walked in, though. He's an instinctive player that really understands ball. But so much of it is, you know, where Alex has this. You know, he knows what AG's thinking. You know, they've been together long enough to where we get in this situation. This is what you want. This is how we're doing it. This is and I think that's where Jack is. I mean, he's been right in his hip pocket. I mean, he's, you know, and he watches that and he learns and he listens and, you know, I mean, we were doing these in spring. Alex wasn't even here yet. Alex came in a couple of weeks later, and we were doing these situational scenarios where we're letting Goff call it and we let Jack call it on defense. So this isn't the first time he's kind of had to take a little bit of a role like that, and he's going to be fine as far as that. He'll step right into that, and he'll embrace it, and I think you'll see him thrive.
Pretty good stuff there from Dan Campbell talking about Jack Campbell.
They fell in love with him.
Yeah.
They fell in love with him the minute they talked to him.
He's having an impressive year. He's right now 78 total tackles, which is tied for 25th.
Do you guys think he could take over for the loss of Anzalone, or who does? I know they signed a guy that used to play with Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting his name.
David
right now.
Long?
David Long.
Yeah.
I've watched some stuff on him, and
He's
I know
solid.
it wasn't last year's stuff, but when he was with Tennessee a couple of years ago, he was playing out of his mind.
No, he was a guy that we mentioned here a couple
Ball
years
Dinger
ago.
broke him down a few times.
Yeah.
He's a really good player. I think he'll help us. Jack Campbell, I think he just does he does things differently than Anzalone. He does some things that Alex Anzalone can't do, and I think they'll help the Lions ultimately. I don't think he'll try to replace Anzalone, but I think he'll give you enough of a force mixed in with some other players to definitely show cause. You know, yeah, I like that.
It was a big two, and as one goes down, one comes back. Here's Dan Campbell talking about Malcolm Rodriguez. As Alex Anzalone is now gone, here's Malcolm Rodriguez getting into the action.
Good to get Rodrigo back because he gives us a lot of flexibility, and he can play the will, he can play the Sam out in space. You know, he's been playing kind of that big nickel, and so, you know, having him back, it relieves a lot of pressure there. So. And I thought he played really well yesterday, man. He's got a nose for the football. He's aggressive, and he has production back there. So it's big getting him back.
So there you go. What impact do you think Malcolm Rodriguez can have on this defense? I feel like he's just such a solid player.
I think solid's a great term. I think you're talking about maybe 3 tackles, you know what I'm saying, maybe a half a sack. He just feels like a guy that every time I look up, he's making some kind of play. And you're looking like, how is Rodrigo in there making a play? But at the end of the day, when you're in a system like this, Aaron Glenn's system, know your assignment. Like, if you know your assignment and you're where you're supposed to be, plays come to you because you got a good team, especially that interior defense. He's going to be able to have free range. Like, when you got guys up front like DJ Reader and Lee McNeil, you're not seeing a lot of offensive linemen get to you. Mm-hmm. So you're roaming free, much like you see Bobby Wagner, much like you see Fred Warner and those guys. So you can make some plays. So step up.
Listen, man, when Malcolm Rodriguez was drafted, who got him on the show quick?
The heavyweight.
He's a heavyweight, right?
The heavyweight.
Those guys knew about this kid. This guy just is in the right place at the right time. If you remember, NFC Championship game. He had an interception in that game. He just always seems to be in the mix. Special teams, he's a demon. And he can tackle. He's not the most talented guy, the biggest guy in the world. But he's got big, you know what? He is in the game. I'm very happy that he's a Detroit Lion.
Big stones, is that what you're saying? Big
Whatever you want. He's there when you need him.
Big huevos.
He played last week. Big huevos. I said he played last week, didn't he? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
One of the tackles, I'm sitting there watching him outlining. You see when he grabbed, I can't think who he grabbed. Didn't let him go. Like, he's got that wrestling background as well. Like, once he put his hands on you,
he's like a cowboy.
It's over, baby.
Wrestling a steer.
100%.
It's over, baby.
It's over.
What about Zadarius Smith's debut? Now that Dan Campbell has had an opportunity to look at the film, what did he see?
It's good to get Rodrigo back because he gives us a lot of flexibility.
The one you just heard, just momentarily. We'll get you that as well. No problem, Pete. It's okay. Don't worry about it, big guy. We got this. But yeah, Zadarius Smith came in and got a sack right away. Well, not right away, but in his first game anyway. It's it was a 4th down play in the 4th quarter, and he stepped up and got it going. So anyway, Dan Campbell really enjoyed. Here, you got the sound.
Yeah,
okay,
I got it. Here you go.
Thanks, Pete.
Bam.
I thought he did some things for us. I thought he did some good things for us. It was good to have him out there. I thought, really, like we talked about last week, man, just be a piece of this puzzle. And he's a guy that's played. He is instinctive, man. He doesn't stay blocked long. He's really good with his hands. Like I say, he can set an edge in the run game, and he's really good at working games with the other, with Mack and with Reeder and those guys. He's got a knack for those things. So I think, first outing with him, I thought it was good. I think he fits right in with us.
Yeah, this was one of the things I was talking about, those games that they'll eventually start to play. Him inside with the DJ Reader, Lee McNeil. It's good that he has a knack on that. That means they can be ahead of the curve. They can start running some of those a little bit sooner, maybe even against the Colts. But it's going to take a second, but he's doing the thing that makes it easy to him. You get on that defensive line, you know how to get that quarterback, and he's playing with a good core group of guys that he rocks with. So I expect to start seeing him make some plays early on in the game. He got sacked late in that game, but I think he was trying to fill himself out. I think this would be a game. You got Anthony Richardson. This would be a big one for him.
Hey, the week prior to the Lions grabbing him, he led the Browns, had a sack, had 9 pressures, a bunch of tackles. He's going to have those games for the Lions. And if you remember, before Hutchinson really took his step up, he was the king of the pressure, right? So let's get some pressures and let Aleem McNeil clean up the mess.
No doubt. Who's also been cleaning up a lot out there is Kirby Joseph. This player has been incredible for the Detroit Lions. You talk about ball hawks. This is as close as you get to having one around here. I mean, I don't even know who you would compare him to in terms of Lions history.
Never had one.
Benny Blades was a banger. I mean, he used to knock you into tomorrow, but nobody was a ball hawk like this guy is.
Lem Barney.
Point, he was always real quiet when he first got here. He wouldn't say a word. And now he's really Curb, man. Here's where Curb's grown. Curb has grown at the safety position. He was raw. He had not really played much defensive football. He was a receiver, and that's what you liked, was the raw ability of him. But he was an instinctive player. He had these instincts for the football. He kind of figured some things out without being coached very much, playing it. And what you're seeing now is the growth of this player now going on, 3 years. He's growing into the position. He's understanding the safety position. He understands how he can manipulate the quarterback. He can, by the disguises with himself, but also Branch. And that's what you see. You see a damn good athlete who wants it, who's worked at it, is growing into a damn good safety. That's a credit to him.
Good for Curb. Good for Curb. I caught a lot of Curb hate year 1, year 2, because I said, look, he can get interceptions, but he's out of place a lot. People didn't understand what I was talking about. I'm like, he's out of place a lot. He knows how to get to the football, but he doesn't know how to tackle. He's coming up. He's giving up the leverage, things of that nature. We talked about 4 weeks ago, I said, I hear the air read, I hear the numbers, and I can't lie about the numbers, but why did they have the conversation on the sideline and you see Aaron Glenn chew him out? Ever since that conversation, in which he had interception on the very next play, mind you, you've seen him be in the right spots. You've seen him feel the right way. You've seen him back up his safety in Brian Branch. You've seen him come up in the run game. He had a hit this week on Etienne. I was like, okay, this is different.
Great tackle.
It was a great tackle. It was a Brian Branch tackle.
Yep.
It was.
I had to look at the numbers. I said, is that 32 or is that 31?
He got him low and held him.
Got to give Kirby Joseph a lot of credit. And this makes sense to what Dan Campbell was saying. He's growing into actually being a safety. 1 year in Illinois before getting drafted by the Lions. So he's growing into it, and is actually saying a lot about him that he's grown this fast considering 1 year college ball at that position.
Listen,
so
man,
shouts out to
this
him.
is a hell of a secondary,
Yeah,
huh?
he's
From
growing.
nowhere to this secondary, which is the best in the NFL, bar none. And Artur on the chat reminded me, Amik Robertson, what a hitter he is.
Yeah, he can
Number
run.
1 defensive back against the run, Pro Football Focus. Just another guy, Amik Robertson,
Attitude
coming from the
guy,
Raiders.
too.
Attitude.
Yeah.
That's what he's got. Attitude, man. They're all one's better than the next. And we haven't even heard of Enos Rakestraw yet. Wait till that guy shows what he's got.
Developing him.
And then Mosley's coming back.
Yep.
I was just gonna say for Kirby Joseph though, it is a testament to continuing to work. But just think about it. Tracy Walker was here. CJ was here a minute ago. Like Kirby Joseph had to work to get this spot back, and he's not only worked to get this spot back. He's taken it and done. He's done tremendous things with it.
I just think what Brad Holmes, and I will put Aaron Glenn in this conversation too, but really it's Brad Holmes because he's the guy that identifies what he wants. In 1 year, what you've done to that secondary. We are talking about a team that, again, has not allowed more than one touchdown pass in any one game, and a team that also has picked off a pass, at least one, in all 10 games so far. The last team to do that was the '85 Eagles.
I was thought that you were going to say the Bears.
No, I know.
No, he wasn't.
But it was the '85 Eagles.
But people say that is the greatest defense of all time.